So they sent me back to Betlit and then back to Tilnov. And I trained to be the jump master of the regiment. By then I was a corporal, and once I'd finished my training, I became a sergeant Samal. I went through the ranks training paratroopers for the next 6-7 years until 1967. In May the 22nd of 1967, I just finished training, the initial training of a group who'd done their 6 months. And we went down to Telnov in the south, and I was called into the regiment's office. By then I was Raf Samal Rishon, which is the regimental sergeant major. In the office there was Motager and Yitzhak Rabin. They sat me down and questioned me about the trainees, whether they were battle ready. I said, not at this point, not for heavy battle. They still need a little bit of open battle. Motta then turned around to me and said, do we have anyone here who can fight urban? I said, well, we've trained and trained and trained, but we've never actually fought in a city. He said, well, this is what I want you to do. You'll leave tomorrow, take the 55th with you, we've recalled them all, and go into the hills of Yerushalayim and train, and train, and train. He said, this is important because war is imminent. Next morning we went into the hills and we trained, and we used some of the old buildings and in and out of them, and we still didn't know what was going on. And then came the 4th of June. On the 4th of June, I was called back to Telnov, and Motta said, it's going to happen in the next 24 hours. He said, intelligence tells us that we can attack through a place called Givat Hatach Mashet, which to you is Ammunition Hill. That they'll be waiting for us in the police academy. And this was the intelligence we had. Unfortunately, when we got there, we left at 1 a.m. on the 5th, and we got there at 2:30 in the morning. The academy was empty. Where were the Jordanian army? And this wasn't just all Jordanian soldiers, this was the elite of Jordanian soldiers. This was the British trained Arab Legion. They had fallen back to the bunkers at Givat Hatach Mashet. The bunkers are all around the trenches. We dived into the trenches. Because of the area we were going to and working in, we were not allowed to have any air cover or artillery cover. You cannot bomb Yerushalayim. From there, from 2:30 until 6:30 in the morning, we fought. At times it was hand to hand, bayonets drawn, they were coming at us. These were elite soldiers. In that 4 hours, we lost 36 young men. These were reservists who'd come from their families, their children, their wives, to fight with us. And they didn't think twice about giving up for their lives or what they were fighting for. We could not have got into the old city without taking Givat HaTachamashet. And people don't realise that. It was the initial battle, and it was the main battle of the Six-Day War. We were given some rest at 6:30. We used most of that time to gather up our fallen comrades and take them to a safe place from where the rabbis took over from us. We were then called back into, myself and some officers that were left. 4 of the 36 were officers. And we were told that we could have a few hours rest, and on the 6th we would gather again and go into the old city. That evening we were given the plans and asked what we thought of them. The plan was that we'd go through various gates, and also the paratroopers that were on Mount Scopus, where we could go, would come down and back us up. We were the 3rd company, and the 4th company were also involved later on, which was the Jerusalem Brigade as well. We were assigned to gates. My gate was the Lion's Gate. Some of the gates we could take the half tracks in, some we couldn't. When I went through the gate, I had 50 of my boys with me. Other areas had more. But we could only take 50 because we had to climb the Me'asharim, not the Me'asharim, the holiest area in Christianity, which was the Stations of the Cross. There was one problem. They were waiting for us. Have any of you ever gone up that particular area? It's shops and steep steps all the way up. And overlooking the shops of the houses of the people. And every one of them had snipers. So it took us a long time to move inch by inch, area by area, until we got rid of most of them. About halfway up, an Arab came out of the house, and he was dressed all in white keffiyeh, white robes, and carrying the white flag. He approached me. You have to be very careful because you don't know what's under those robes. But at that point, I was so battle hardened, I I thought, well, if I go, there's somebody behind me. And what he said to me, in perfect Hebrew, was, "Are you looking for the Kotel?" And I was a bit stunned at that point, and then I said, "Well, that is our aim, yes." And he said, "I can lead you there." And I was just taken back, and I said, "Well, what is it in for you?" He said, "I've been stuck here with these people for years now, but I am a Jew." Okay, lead me on. And from there, it didn't get any easier. We were shot at. We had grenades thrown at us. Every 2 seconds you could hear the thing, "Rimon, Rimon, Rimon," which is grenade. Until we got to a section where he said, "We're now in the Jewish quarter." Right, we said, "Well, we can't be far from here, surely." And there were 2 guys in the regiment who had actually been born in Yerushalayim prior to 48. And they said, "No, we're very near now." But it got more difficult because there were still snipers everywhere. And at this point, the Jordanians had made it extremely difficult for us because they had built walls. The Jewish border is up, the Kotel is down. We were up there, we had to get down there. And all around where the Kotel is, there were snipers. Well, we climbed over the walls, and one of the guys said, "Look at this wall." And it was a Jewish tombstone. The whole lot, every wall that they had put in front of us was made of Jewish tombstones. We finally were over and over and over. And my corporal tapped me on the shoulder after we got over the last one. And there was another wall right in front of it. And he said, "Alon." I said, "What?" He said, "We're standing in front of the Kotel." I couldn't believe it because it was what you see today is a grand area. We saw 6 foot. There was 6 foot between where I am, not even that, and where your table is there. That was the distance between the last wall and the actual holy wall. By then, a couple of the generals had called us up, and Motta said to me, "Well, we need to clean the area," because there were still snipers, so we had to be very, very careful. He said, "Rabbi Goren is on his way." And with that he said, he picked up the phone and he phoned the Prime Minister Eshkol and said, "Yerushalayim Shalanu." Jerusalem is ours. And then Rabbi Goren turned up. And he was so full of emotion that he could hardly speak. He wanted to be the first to actually blow the shofar at the wall. But he said to me, "My mouth is dry. I can't speak. I can't, I'm too full of tears. I need 20 minutes, but he said, we need to blow the shofar. And he asked one of his aides if he knew how, and he said no. He asked another one, no. And he said to me, I don't suppose you know. I said, actually, my grandfather taught me. I blew the shofar. I was the first man to blow the shofar at the Kotel in 1967. I couldn't blow it properly because I'd forgotten mostly how, but I got a noise out of it. But then he took over and actually blew it. The days that followed, we were cleaning up the area. Some of us were sent into the latrun to clean that area up, so that today you can actually drive from Tel Aviv to Yerushalayim in 40 minutes. It used to take 2.5 hours because we had to go around instead of through. To this day, I remember and I see the faces of the boys that died on the 5th. They're with me all the time. They are the true heroes of Israel. Would anybody like to ask any questions?
What did you do with all the tables?
Sorry?
What did you do with all the tables that were in front of the Kotel? The tombstones?
Yeah.
You cleared them away?
We cleared them all out
Where did you put them?
in Van Herzl with the soldiers.
That was a fascinating story.
Thanks, Alan. Are there any questions? I'd like to. So you were the leader of the regiment that went through the Lion Gate.
Yeah.
So that was your regiment, and you were leading them through the gate. And what was your? So you were a sergeant.
I was regimental sergeant major during the first few days, but because we lost our leaders, I'd already been to officer school. By the time we went through the Lions Gate, I was a captain.
And I think perhaps a question that's on all of our minds: how on earth did you come to be here in Australia? What's the story? Briefly.
My son was born in 1971. By 1973, we had travelled to Paris, where my wife has family. And the journey was delayed because I had to do a Milawim. I was out of the army by then and working for the Sachnut. My wife got very scared when my son was born and said, we can't go back. It broke my heart not to go back because my life is Israel, my blood is in Israel. I've got half a toe on my right foot that was blown off. So we decided that we didn't want to live in Paris. We didn't want to live in London. I hate London. And I had a brother living here. So we came here 41 years ago.
Your wife's also from London?
My wife is a Londoner, but with Parisian parents. And we still have family in Paris and in the south of France, and I have some cousins in London. But I go back every few years, and in '73 I went back. And I was the captain to Arik Sharon when we crossed the Suez. The '73 war, the Yom Kippur War.
So you were with the brigade with Ariel Sharon when you crossed the Suez Canal in the '73 war. Is that correct? In the Yom Kippur War. Can you elucidate a little bit on that event?
We were in trouble. We didn't expect them to attack. I was in Paris at the time, and I got a phone call, and on the other end was Arik. And he said, "I need you back." I said, "But I'm in Paris." He said, "Go to the embassy now." I went back. The Arabs were obviously all boasting that they were going to be in Tel Aviv the next day. And he said, "Get your regiment together. You've got 2 hours." In Israel, you recall all the reservists at time of need. You've probably wondered why Israelis listen to the radio all the time. They get messages. And they tell you where to go and how to get there. We did get the regiment together within 2 hours. And Arik, in his wisdom, decided that we had to cross back across the canal itself. So we got engineers with us, and they built some, they called them Bailey bridges, and we got some trucks, some half tracks, and then we got the Khatif Sheva, which is the elite of the tank regiments, and off we went. And we actually were able to face the Egyptian army, who in typical fashion looked at us, took off their boots and ran again. And we ended up in a pincer movement on the other side, at the back of them. So we had Israeli soldiers here, and Israeli soldiers there, and in the middle was the Egyptian army. And they just surrendered. And that was how we virtually got back from a very disastrous situation. It would have been disastrous if we'd allowed them to actually get into Israel.
Any other questions?
Given the Jerusalem situation and the way you fought, which is for infantry, without any support is not a good way to go. Looking back on the battle, what were the lessons learnt in relation to your fighting techniques?
To the fighting techniques. Today in the parachute regiment, they do more hand-to-hand fighting. And that's how Krav Maga came about as well. Because we were in the Arab Legion, weren't ordinary soldiers, they were the elite. And they knew how to fight. It was just our will to beat them. And our will to survive, which is the Jewish way.
Gaza problem at the moment, what do you think should be done?
Go in. I don't know what BB's waiting for.
To anyone who didn't hear that, with the Gaza situation at the moment, what should be done?
It's not that easy. Look, you know, during my last years in the army and just before the 67, I actually trained Yoni. And I knew...
Yoni Netanyahu, the brother of Bibi,
Yeah.
from Entebbe.
Yoni never liked his brother. I don't like his brother. I have met Bibi, and I've met him on several occasions, and he's not David Green, or Ben Gurion as you know him. He's too weak. I was lucky enough to have met Ben Gurion and Eshkol. And at one point, for 6 months, I was one of Golda's bodyguards. They were the true spirit of Israel. Today, the only one I can see is Shaked. I think she'd make an amazing Prime Minister.
Any other questions? Martin?
I already know the answer. People here would probably be interested in Alan's comment. Why didn't we blow up the dome?
Yeah, I actually did mention that. When we had taken the old city, Goran was insistent that we blow up the dome. I was the explosive expert, and I virtually got orders from Uzi Narkis and from just about everybody, every general, that I needed to go up to the dome and lay explosives and blow the damn thing up. Excuse my French. I took 2 men with me, and we did lay the explosives. Mota then said to Uzi, well, we have to tell the Secretary of Defense, the Defense Minister. Who was that? Diane. Diane, for all his bravado, wasn't a great soldier. And he took a lot of the kudos from Rabin that he should never have done. And his orders to us were disarm it. Can you imagine if we had blown it up? There'd be a new temple there. And there wouldn't be any problems with the Arabs in that particular area. Well, as much as you can say that, but, you know. But yeah, Diane has a lot to answer for.
Last question.
Why did they hand the Temple Mount back to the Jordanians?
Diane's orders. He didn't want to upset the Arabs. We didn't want to. We didn't want to. We lost boys, and it wasn't just the 36 in Tata. We lost men all around. It was more like 100 at the end. Why should we give up our blood for them? Yeah. I had no respect for that man.